Now, as promised, we have Jeff Tegethoff with Tegethoff Development. And Jeff, I'm so thankful you've taken the time to come in and be with us because, boy, our viewers have lots of questions. We've got lots of questions. And I know you're eager to kind of clear the air, inform, and just some of the misconceptions and lack of understanding, because we've been pretty excited about this project. We've also been unsure about this project, and so here we are 2 months into 24, and you guys are full head of steam, right?
We are. Things are going really well, and we're definitely on schedule. So
super. All right, so I want to start with when you hear about this incredible amusement park development, you hear Skyview Partners, and you hear Tegethoff Development, and you hear Marriott Hotels, and all of these different names. So can you, just for the layman's right here, give us a breakdown of who's responsible for what, and is it all one entity, or how is it separated?
Sure. So Fred Ross, the owner of Big Thunder Marine, and I have partnered on real estate developments across the Midwest for a number of years. As probably most of your viewers know, Fred's been really involved at the lake for a number of years with Big Thunder Marina and a number of other boat-focused businesses. Fred came to me a couple years ago, and he had started assembling this piece of land there where Lakeport Marina was, and didn't really have a clear plan of what he wanted to do or what was possible. Fred and I share one of the things we share in common is that we believe the lake has had this void of family-focused entertainment for a number of years. I grew up coming to the lake. When I was born, my folks had a place at the lake. I met my wife here at the lake. She used to work at the hospital. And Fred's tried to focus on family-focused boating. So we saw this void, and we were like, well, what could become of this? Fred and I, having been partners in the past, he graciously sold me part of the land, and we decided to partner on it. Skyview Partners is an amusement park operator. My background is in primarily residential development. So we wanted to bring in kind of best of breed operators. We partnered with Skyview on the amusement park, partnered with a group called American Resort Managements that'll operate the water park. That's all they do. Marriott is just a franchise. Fred and I will own the hotel, as well as everything else on the site as well. So
super, and I appreciate that breakdown because it's important to understand this is a big project, a lot of moving parts, and I think it's clear to identify that the developer, you guys and your team, you want the best deal out of it, but part of that is accommodating the locals and showing you're a team player. You're willing to show them, hey, we want the community to thrive, and so in that come attempts and efforts, and so I know you guys and your team have made many efforts, and so touch on some of those that you guys have made up to this point in time.
Yeah, we continue to want to have impact in the community. I mean, we're not going anywhere. This is going to be a legacy asset for us. We like to say internally, we develop trophy assets. We're not build them, fill them, and flip them type of developers. We like to develop to own forever. And that starts even before you put a shovel in the ground. So everything from meeting with the local Rotaries and helping sponsor some of their events, whether it's with, we're working on some stuff with the hospital right now as well. We intend to be active in the community, going forward. And I think Fred's shown that with his investment in Big Thunder in the community as well. But from big to small, we want to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I know that early, the dynamic, it wasn't always a good one from the locals, but it was fueled by a lot of maybe misconception and lack of information. And one of the headlines that really got a lot of attention was the Camdenton School District. There was a back and forth, a supposed offer and counteroffer, and from that, a resolution from the Camden County Commission, the sheriff, and the school district saying they would not support a super TIF for this project. And so have you guys made amends? Are there plans to make amends, or where does that relationship stand?
Yeah, when you're dealing with these economic development tools, there's certain requirements from the state on certain tools. We basically dusted off the playbook that they used for Branson's Landing. Branson's Landing was funded with a series of economic development tools, a CID, which we did. That's a community improvement district, a TDD, or a transportation development district, a TIF, which is tax increment financing, what's called a super TIF, which is a state supplemental tax increment financing. That's the component where the state says, hey, we will put a portion of our taxes to help pay for public infrastructure if it has a tourism component. But one of the key requirements is that all the local taxing jurisdictions have to participate 100%. If anybody pulls themselves out, then we're out. Now the fire district gets to opt out. The fire district can always opt out. They get 100% of their money no matter what. The school district, we got out in front of it. Listen, we know you don't need a unanimous vote on these things. You just need a certain amount to get through it. And we felt like even if they voted against it, we still had support to get there. So we wanted to share with them, like, listen, we think this is inevitable that we're going to get support, and which we ultimately did. But whether you like it or not, you're going to have to give up your portion of that increment if we're going to get a super TIF and utilize the same tools that other municipalities are using to take business away from the lake area. And so we did make them an offer. We offered north of $1 million as kind of a lump sum to try to figure something out. And I think some of the other things that became it became not about the amount and more about a real binary outcome. Like, we either do support it or we don't support it. And at the time, there was just never going to be the opportunity to come to some middle ground. I think, again, we intend to be very active with the local schools once this is all built. These amusement parks are magnets for like STEM programs. You can imagine all the engineering that goes into it. And we will be working with, not just the Camden School District, but school districts all across the state to bring people to this for STEM programs and things like that. So our commitment to the school district didn't end at that vote. It basically started at that point. And we will be, we feel very fortunate to be in an area where, I would say, of the phone calls I get and the people that stop me on the street when I'm around the area and stuff, 99% of people are super supportive of what we're doing, at least the people that are coming up to me. And
let me ask you this. So today, would you be willing to revisit that conversation and see that come to fruition? Because, that is important, and they feel like, that may not be something that they want to give up without a proper return. And so we'd love to see that be something that you guys...
We would, and there's been times where I've had other discussions with Dr. Kirksey, and we would totally... we would welcome that. We would love to see some specific needs that we can fill, as opposed to just lumping it into a giant bucket.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we're very open to that.
Very, very good. Okay, so now Lakewood Resort, as we move forward, that's the big one. I kind of want your synopsis from day one when you guys, had the property and you realized that's going to have to be resolved. We're going to have to do something with that. What did that process look like for you guys?
Yeah, the timeshares have been a pretty clumsy process, and I think, the state of Missouri, fortunately and unfortunately, has a checkered history with timeshares in general. But the good news about that is there's a lot of just state law that governs it now because of how many timeshares at one point were in the state and even at the Lake of the Ozarks. We went to the HOA board initially and made an offer to buy the whole thing. They, admittedly didn't know which stack of HOA docs even governed that, and how would a sale even happen. We offered to pay all of their legal fees, explore their HOA board docs for them. They had 3 different sets that they weren't sure which ones governed. We did all that and had a great rapport going with the board at that time. And even got to the point where we made them an offer. They made a counter offer. There were some offers back, some other negotiations back and forth. We ultimately agreed to and signed one of their counter offers, and then they went silent. I don't know what happened. We still haven't figured that out. There's been some wrangling in the courts for us to be able to continue to pursue it. And, the other path has been me just acquiring individual weeks.
And you have, correct?
A lot. Yeah, there's 1,043 weeks
Available total.
Yeah, and
for the
remember,
year.
these are not condos. These are timeshares. So people actually have a deeded interest to a week. That, when they purchase that, it also put them on the hook to pay annual dues every year. Of those 1,043 people, we have been able to track down 907 of them. Some of them have died, and the heirs don't even know they have it. Of those 907, only 23 have said, absolutely never will I sell to you. That's only 2.5%. But I've already acquired 501 are mine now, so about 48% of them. I have 140 more weeks closing on February 29th. We need to get, 75% of the vote has to approve a sale. You don't need 100%. It's same with like a condo association. Right. So not all 100% have to approve it. There's a path for us to get there, and we're getting there.
I'm no math major, but you're close to 60%.
Yeah, and we'll get to 75%. I mean, we were hoping to have it done by the end of the year. Obviously, that didn't happen. I think we have a path to get it done here by the end of June, and we're hoping that it could even happen sooner.
So it looks like one way or another, you are certainly planning on acquiring what is needed there. And then can I ask, what are the plans once you do have ownership, should that come to fruition?
Yeah, so, a couple things. The amusement park doesn't require any of the land that the timeshares currently sit on. It's really only the water park. It hasn't slowed down our construction schedule. We are still on pace, whether it happens in March or whether it happens in June, candidly, whether it happened in a year, the amusement park is still going to open April of 25.
Wow.
The water park right now, the schedule's not being held up on the development of that based off of the timeshares. We're scheduled, based off where we're at today, April of 26 for the water park and hotel to open. They're actually connected, so we would open them essentially at the same time. So you could have a room at the Marriott and never go outside in the winter to access the water park. So
very good. All right. So another couple of other questions that people throw around with this is where are people going to live that work in the development, and then also the road system. You saw what happened with Six Flags in Eureka Springs with their the Missouri Eureka Springs facility. So those are some concerns we've heard continually. So what would you say to those?
Yeah. First, where are people going to live? Fortunately, I'm building 268 apartments off of Nichols Road as well, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Even before we announced this, the lake has a housing shortage. We feel the lake's underserved by about 2,000 housing units today. And that's everything from $1 million homes to rental apartments and everything in between. And we think our project at Sycamore Creek is just the start of hopefully other developers coming down, building more houses for sale, more places for rent, and that'll continue. As far as traffic goes, traffic is very important to us, and the lack of. People need to be able to access this site. The reason we chose this site is because obviously highway visibility and lake visibility. Yeah. We've been very active working with Ameren to revise a new dock plan. We'll have somewhere around 196 to 200 slips there, new slips that boats will be able to come. But also we're using part of those economic development tools to build a public parking garage. That's about 1,000 parking spaces. That is in addition to another structured parking underneath the hotel, which will have about another 400. We're planning for peak time, kind of 4th of July weekend, we could have, 6,000 to 7,000 people on this site.
Could the roads and the exits and the off ramps actually accommodate that?
They can once we're done. We're widening Jeffries Road. We're burying some power lines there to accommodate that. We've checked intersections, and we'll re-signalize stoplights. The Case Road intersection all the way up to like KK. We've checked those intersections based off of car counts to accommodate thousands and thousands of people a day coming by boat and by car at different times of the year. So again, we hire third-party traffic study traffic engineers to do that. And then we're kind of at the mercy of what those reports say. And so we've also been working with MoDOT. Obviously, the team over at Osage Beach is very involved. But it's a collective effort, and we're kind of at the mercy of what those reports say. If they say you need to widen this road, we can't come back and say no. And so we are widening Jeffries. We've looked at traffic counts at peak times and slow times, and all that's being taken into consideration.
Jeff, I want to ask, because you said you've been coming to the lake your whole life. When you were born, your family had a lake house. But even though you've worked with Fred Ross over the years on different developments, this is really your first taste of big business in the Lake of the Ozarks business climate and culture. So I'm curious, twofold here. What is the most surprising thing or biggest thing you've learned? And then what's been your favorite part of working with the Lake of the Ozarks business municipalities and businesses?
Yeah, I'd say the most surprising thing is how many other business owners have reached out in support. And from big to small businesses, we've been really fortunate from the get-go. I've had a lot of people unsolicited reach out to me asking how they can help, or just say, hey, just wanted to let you know, like, we love what you're doing. It's that whole idea, like, we can't do it all. And I think the people that truly understand the impact that a development like this has, it's going to raise the tide for everybody. Yeah. And that's whether you own another restaurant that's off-site or a small hotel, whether any type of business that services the lake. Our focus is wanting to continue to make the lake a year-round place, give great year-round employment opportunities to people where you can build a career and create a family-focused environment. So I think I've been so pleasantly surprised with the number of business owners that have reached out to me. And I think, as well, listen, Osage Beach has been amazing. And I think I say this often about Mayor Harbinson, what he's been able to do to just listen, these are new things for him, obviously. And he's taken the time to listen and learn. We don't always agree on everything. He tells me when he doesn't agree with me. He's helped me educate other council members. Most of the council members have spent a lot of time learning about everything from the economic development tools to what does it mean, like what does a third-party traffic study, what is it going to tell us? But we have a great group. There's a great group of stakeholders that care deeply about the lake, that have been involved with this from the beginning. And I think we all share one thing in common. We want to see the lake continue to transform. Listen, the negative response that we hear, I would say, is the vocal minority in that, hey, I don't want to see the lake change. And I say, well, I got bad news for you. The lake's been changing for a long time. This is not the same lake that it was even into, post-recession. And the lake's going to continue to change, and it needs to. If we're going to continue to have great schools and great services, we need great year-round businesses.
Sure. All right, my friend. Well, hey, so just because we're about out of time, I'm so thankful. I want to end with at this point in time, could you say that you're 100% certain that this is going to come to fruition and we'll have the Ferris wheel and we'll have the indoor water park and the parking garage? All right, so our friends at Missouri Network TV, they did submit online a question, and they said, so what are some of the obstacles that you've encountered that wouldn't be so obvious to us?
Well, obviously the timeshares. That's a logistical nightmare.
But that's obvious to us.
Yeah.
We're very clear. So how about some obstacles and maybe the development or the land or the layout that have not been obvious to us on the outside?
I would say that some of the obstacles we've overcome by just great support. Ameren, having their input on the lake, but they've bent over backwards to, help us understand what we could and couldn't do. The utility infrastructure in Osage Beach, we've had to learn a lot about. But Kerry Patterson and his team over at the city have been great. There's no different obstacles here than what we see on other developments. Everybody knows there's rock everywhere you go at the lake, and everybody knew the topography was sloped down. We've heard from Ready Rock, who's doing our walls, that we'll have the largest Ready Rock wall installation in the United States when completed. But we knew we had to do that. type of stuff. So,
Man, Jeff, I'll be the first to say on the onset of this project, I was incredibly negative about it.
I know.
And I'm still not always sold on the idea of a TIF inherently.
Yeah.
However, I will say I incorrectly said some things early on in the process, and now that I've learned, you have been a good developer. You've been diligent in your attempts to appease a lot of these people, and I am refreshed to hear that you said you're willing to sit back down with the District of Camdenton to see that come to fruition, because we here at Lake TV, our school districts, our healthcare providers, as they go, so do our community. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, I appreciate you saying that. We're always willing to sit down with anybody and talk about the development. And like I said from the beginning, we're here for the long term. We want to make a positive impact in the community, not just at our development with the jobs we create at development, but we think this is going to have a lasting impact on the entire lake area, and that's what we're most excited about.
Man, we appreciate your time. That's Jeff Tegethoff with Tegethoff Developments.